I will completely own that I came up with this topic this week,
I'm going to
but
completely let you own it.
well, that was unexpected. Yep, that was, yeah. The reason I wanted to bring this up, and we have talked a bit about unexpected things in the past. I know we have covered expectations
For sure.
in various ways, but I found this week that there were a lot of, well, that was unexpected. I didn't see that coming. And so I wanted to share a little bit about some of the examples of that, but also what went on within that.
Okay.
So there were some really good unexpected things. I had people who I met once 4 years ago that reached out and said, "Oh, I think it's time to work with you." Okay. Well, that was unexpected. Um, had that conversation. That's all. The wheels are in motion for that. What that triggered was a little bit of, oh, really? How do people, what, how does that happen? I don't know that I meet someone 4 years ago and then like
Want to
randomly,
reach out at that point.
yes. And so then that made me reassess like what impact, like how important it is um to put that best self forward because
Mhm.
you never know what impression you're leaving. I then had a client come in who a couple of weeks back had reached out to me, and I hadn't seen her since about 2019. And when she came in, I mean, it felt like I'd seen her yesterday. Like there was no time. Like time had not really existed between when I'd last seen her and when I saw her this week. We just picked up from where we'd left off, basically. She remembered things that I'd said to her from 5, 6 years ago, word for word. I'm like, oh, yeah, that would have been exactly what I would have said. And she still maintains those mantras today.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, like, again, it was this, I, really looking at sometimes when we speak and we say things, we don't really gauge the impact that that can have.
Well, you're not, the thing is, you might have some sort of amazing wisdom to share. And it may be amazing to you, or maybe it's ordinary for you. But when it hit them, it was extraordinary. It resonated with them. They bought into it. They like resonated. I like that. I agree with that. This is my new mantra, whatever. So I can understand how that meaning might drop for others because of how it resonates with them as an individual.
And it was unexpected that that would still be maintained 5, 6 years later. That was unexpected. I also had some not so good unexpected things. So there, but it was just consistently, well, I didn't see that coming. Uh, there was a conversation that I set up so I could introduce someone and allow them to have a conversation. So ended up being a three-way Zoom call, just so that I didn't just randomly put those two people together and let them go at it. Um, and what happened in that conversation was uh, unexpected in a way where there was an idea being presented and there was resistance to that idea.
Mhm.
Even though that idea was requested, it was something that was asked for. And even when it was presented, it got shut down really quickly. And it was just fascinating to watch because I was basically the third wheel in the conversation. So I got to watch this play out. And it it surprised me that people would behave that way, for one, but also that there would be like, what is the result of that? And I went into that conversation with an assumed result,
Mm.
with an assumed outcome.
Unexpected outcome.
And it was not the outcome that I'd expected. And again, it highlighted that we can often walk into a situation with an assumed outcome. And maybe that's something that, well, for me, I went, well, maybe I need to just make sure that I really check in with what my assumed outcome is. And it's all well and good to have an intention, but also if I don't want the shock of the different outcome, maybe I need to let go of what I think the outcome will be and let it play out. But every time I have a conversation with someone, I know I'm doing this. I have a, I have a level of assumption that I know where this will go.
I think the key, sorry, not the key, but I think it's your attachment to the potential, to the outcome, I think is that where things get tricky. Because you can assume an outcome will things to go a certain way or whatnot. But if you're not attached to it being that certain way, it's okay that it deviates from it. It's when we hold hard on that one that this is the way it has to be. And if it goes any way other than this, it's bad, or it didn't work, or I'm bad, or they're dumb, or whatever, right? Like we start to blame stuff. So it's not holding on to that anticipated outcome if it, yeah.
Yeah, and I've watched myself just today. I shared with you before we started the Facebook Live. I'm traveling later this afternoon, and I've noticed that I'm setting up, I'm anticipating the travel and I'm packing and I'm like sensing all this control that I'm doing. I'm like, I have to be prepared and I have to have it in place and I need to make sure. And and it's creating a bunch of, I'm going to call it anticipation and stress that's really not needed. Because what's going to happen? I'm going to get on the plane and I'm going to fly to Adelaide. Well, it'll be what it'll be. I can hear my head anticipating, oh, so when I get off at Adelaide, now I've been to Adelaide Airport before, so that's kind of good because I'm familiar with the layout of it and it was fairly recently. So I'm a bit okay with, and it's a pretty small airport actually, so it's pretty easy to navigate, unlike Sydney or Melbourne, which does my head in. You just follow the signs when you get to them because I don't have any directional concept when it comes to
Right.
those bigger airports. But coming into Adelaide, it's relatively small. And but it's like, oh, I have to make sure that I know how I'm getting to the hotel from the airport. Oh, can I walk? I don't know. I don't know what time. I'm going to have to check that. I have to be prepared to make sure. Other than I could just wait until I got to my destination and then go, oh, maybe I'll check how close is the hotel. Am I feeling like I'm up for walking or will I just catch an Uber or something? Which would be much more chilled and relaxed. Yet I
Yeah.
am doing this preparing and trying to maintain or predict the outcomes before I've even got there. Which means I'm going to get surprised because there's going to be something unexpected, either positive or negative, that I haven't accounted for. And that will have an impact on me. It's like, would you stop? Just stop.
Yeah. How much
It's,
control do you need?
yeah, good question. Part of me wants to say all of the
Oh, yeah,
control.
I know.
The other part of me
But
goes, I can let it
where's the
be.
fun? Where's the fun in that?
Yeah, where is the fun in the
If you
control?
plan out everything to the T, you're going to be bored stiff.
yes. And not only that, I'll be so organized. I'll have 3 hours before I get on the plane, but I'll have nothing to do. It's just so I could, this unexpected thing, I completely get that I contribute to feeling like things are unexpected because of my, oh, I'll own it, my control issues. Because I like to, and even when I say and I intentionally let go of what the outcome will be and I consciously play that, I wonder whether I'm really letting it go because if I'm still getting unexpected outcomes, I think that I'm still holding on to an expectation that then is not the outcome.
I don't know. You can't control everything. As much as I know you want the control, sorry, I'm gonna burst your bubble. Okay. You can't control it. Actually, you probably
Damn.
can't control anything. You can control how you operate yourself in the moment. Get yourself ready. Sure, I understand that having a game plan, but the plane goes down. There's a
The
freak
flight's
storm that
delayed.
freak storm that happens at the destination, so you can't go. There's a zillion different things that can happen, but it's the way that you react in the moment to the things that are showing up that is going to make you feel okay.
Yes. And uh it is interesting to watch my reaction within the unexpected. And so I can see that there's a little bit of control going on that's a little more heightened than is ideal. And, it's something I've lived with for my entire life and it goes up and down. But I've just noticed this week, it's certainly the control is kicking in and I just need to take a breath. So there you go. That's the unexpected in my world. I mean, there's so many more examples. I unexpectedly got another renovation story. I'm working on a barn door. So we bought the barn door. It was completely naked so that I could paint it so that then I can sand it. So I painted it white so I could sand it off and make it look rustic.
Mhm.
Illogical as that sounds, it's been a fun process to do. And I had never used a hand sander before. So I had to learn how to do that. And unexpectedly, I learned it. I picked it up really, really quickly.
So kind of fun.
And and it's kind of fun. I'm like, what's my next sanding project? What can I do? Oh, I know. I can paint this cupboard in the same way and sand it back. So there's those things where I had an expectation on myself about whether I would be good at this or not good at this. In that example, I know what's playing out there. It's the am I creative? And often I don't give myself credit for being creative or being capable. And with something new, I find historically I take longer to learn.
So that's your
I
expectation.
so that's the
And that's not
expectations.
unexpected, but it keeps you back from experiencing the unexpected.
Correct. It keeps me sort of safer.
But you know what? Like it's weird. Like I too want to control my life and have everything more or less planned out. But there's some magic that can happen when you don't have it planned out or something goes sideways. Um, because if you have like an open spirit about it, trusting that things are working out and things are, always going to work out, something usually does show up that is supportive of you or what you need or where you're headed. And I mean, I don't know if you can think of anything off the top of your head where there's no way you could have planned, like something didn't go the way you wanted, but you couldn't have planned it any better for that person to show up, that thing to be there, that whatever, knight in shining armor, that saved the day. But it was like a fun experience.
Yeah, so I can share actually a story about it was a bit of an extreme story. Back in 2020, when I flew to Kuwait, I landed in this foreign country. And initially, I was met at the airport by some of the staff that I would be working with over the next week. And then there was, and I spent the day at the office. And then there was a point in the afternoon where they said, okay, we're going to pack you up now, put you in a car, because everyone has a driver over there in the Middle East. It's just a standard thing. And we're going to send you to where you're staying. Now, that was at about 6 o'clock at night. So it was getting quite dark. And now I'm in a vehicle, in the back of a vehicle with a driver who doesn't speak English. And I didn't have any connection. This is me bad. I didn't have any way of contacting anyone. I didn't have any access to Wi-Fi or mobile data. And I'm being driven
Mhm.
in a foreign country with no way to contact anyone. I was sitting in the back of that car going, this is the most insane, ridiculous
This could go
position.
sideways. This could go really bad. Yep.
Like, this is the classic. Don't put yourself in that position. Anyway, so it was about a half an hour to three-quarter of an hour drive. So you can imagine what my headspace was doing in that window of time. And I was very nervous and heightened by the time we arrived at this destination. So now it's 7 o'clock at night. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where to even walk. I was given vague, pointed directions, but I didn't know. I just didn't know. So anyway, I followed this path to I don't know where I was going because it wasn't well lit. But here, just go down this path, I was told. So I went down to that path and I saw this light on for this room. So I sort of just headed there and I walked in and there was actually somebody there to greet me who I'd met before. I'd had Zoom calls with them
Mhm.
previously and they were like welcoming and making sure that I knew where everything was in the room and where I was staying and what time breakfast would be and they had everything ready and laid out and spent half an hour with me even though I was completely jet lagged. I was highly stressed. My anxiety was through the roof. And that connection with that person, just that whole level of high stress that I was in, that connection with that person will never be lost
Mhm.
because it was such an extreme, for me, it was such an extreme build up to not being in control.
Mhm.
And and then there was this amazing connection as a result because they just were there. So there has been those types of examples.
I think those examples are important to grab onto just to prove that you don't have to have everything planned out to the T in order for things to work out well, right? Um, this is a really simplistic example, but when I eat out at restaurants, I tend to gravitate to the same thing all the time, all the time, all the time. If I go to this restaurant, that's my meal. If I go to this sandwich shop, that's my meal. It's the same all the time. I'm notorious for that. I remember when I went on a little trip out east here to the Maritimes, so everything, lots of like seafood and whatever, you're right on the ocean. And um, I decided not to do what I always do, even though all these restaurants are brand new, like I've never seen them, they're all one-offs. There's nothing that's the same. I let the waiter, waitress, whatever, decide what I was going to eat.
Oh,
What do you recommend? What's the best thing that you serve here? And let that be the meal. Whatever that thing is, that's how I ordered the entire weekend. It was what is your, because it was, you're on like a little business trip or whatever, like you're eating out every day anyways. So yeah, what's your specialty? What's the, if you were to recommend something, what would it be? And what would you pair it with for wine or whatever? I've never eaten so well in my life. It was so good because I abandoned my norm. I'll have this filet mignon. I'll have, a side of mushrooms. I'll have what, like, it's always the same stuff. So when you're able to let go enough and get out of your own expected version of life and go with the unexpected, some pretty crazy cool things can show up.
And what I can hear in that story, which is something I hadn't articulated before, is that level of curiosity that's kicked in, isn't it? You're open and curious about what else might be available
Right,
rather than locking it down to the only option.
the safe choice. Oof, can't go wrong with a steak. It's always good. It's fine, right? Can't go wrong. But you could be leaving something on the table too.
You could be leaving an experience that will be yeah, will extend you in a way that you go, well, also it could become your new norm. But doing that, so have you adopted that approach moving forward with
That
food?
was my
Just
East Coast
curious.
approach. Okay, so I fall into that creature of habit thing too. So I do enjoy my way of being. However, it was nice to know that I have this other thing available to me too. Like I don't have to do it that way all the time. And if I went to an Indian restaurant, I probably would not order like that because I got to play it safe there. That's just me and how my body works. So I recognize that. But knowing it's available, knowing it's an option, being open and curious there, that does serve me.
Yeah. And it's I think it's a little bit subtle, isn't it? We can, well, I know for me and particularly this week, there were these subtle controlling aspects that I didn't even identify as control, that I was expecting the outcome to be what it was. Or I certainly didn't start my week going, oh, I'm going to hear from someone who I met on a random thing 4 years ago. Yeah, that'll happen. I didn't think that. I didn't control. So what I what I'm trying to say is that I'd started my week with an outcome of it'll just be a normal week.
Mm.
When really maybe a lesson here for me is to go, I wonder what this week will bring.
Mm.
And bringing that curiosity and openness.
How does that feel from just saying those words that way?
This morning while I'm getting prepared to get to Adelaide, that's a good time to ask me. It feels okay. I can apply it to different to to a week. I can apply it to a conversation. I'm
Sure.
not sure I'm ready to apply it to me packing and getting ready to go to Adelaide.
I wonder what my experience passing through airport security will be like. Ah.
Yeah, exactly. I could apply it to different aspects of the travel.
But maybe it's not all the time. So like I know you need your control, right? Like you need to feel like you've controlled something. But if you control what you feel as the controllables and let go of the ones that aren't, and use that for your curiosity about what this week will bring or what's potentially possible for me,
Yeah.
might be a smoother hold on to the comfort and let go here, you know.
Yes. Yes. And that should settle down the unexpected, which would be nice because I've had a few of them this week.
Cool. Thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks, Chris. That was
Thanks for
unexpected.
letting me share my
I did
my
not know where
control
that was
issues
headed.
again.
I did not know where that was headed. But for me, that was unexpected. So that's good.